Boom. Welcome to From a Black Perspective, the virtual reading and release events, which will feature a reading and a Q&A panel from our amazing Q&A panel from our amazing panel. Look at that. Today we have with us Miss SENYAH HAYNES, Mr. Donell Bonaparte, Mr. Ken Compton. Thank you guys for being with us. You guys are going to hear from them in a second. But before we move forward, I wanted to make a quick thank you to a brand that has done a lot for me, Team She Brand. You see the website down there. That's where I got the amazing shirt. Look at God. It just fits right in because what? We are the authors of the blood. And it was the blood for me. Jesus. All right. So there you have it. That is, without all these disclaimers, there we are. Now, how the order of the event is going to go, we are basically going to do, each of us are going to take turns doing a reading. I am playing the part of Russell Simmons today. So I'm going to do my part. I'm going to get out the way and bring out the stars that I want you guys to see more importantly. So as you know, my name once again, Eddie Pierce. I am the founder and the publisher with Rainbow Room Publishing, which published the amazing work that you're about to hear today. Hopefully you've already bought it. If not, check out the captions. I got the website up where you can still get it. And you can also get it from any of the individual authors. Also, you'll notice that there are 6 of us featured in the book. Unfortunately, 2 of us could not be present today, but trust me, it is for a very good reason. Those 2 young ladies, Miss Katrina, the Hurricane Harvey, and Miss Crystal Renee are somewhere doing all the amazing things that qualified them to be in this work. However, they will be well represented today, and you will get to hear from them at a later date. Also wanted to make sure that you know that this broadcast is being brought to you by Rainbow Room Publishing Live, the new podcast, where you're going to be seeing a lot more of great quality content such as this. But without further ado, you guys came here for some story time, to borrow a phrase from my good sister, SENYAH HAYNES, and I'm about to give it to you with my piece from the work, Scott Free. 1 second here. Got it. All right. Scott Free. So the thing to know about this is that it's a piece that I wrote some time ago. Honestly, I got the timestamp somewhere else. I don't have it here, but this was inspired by a time when we did not have cell phones. So please know that. So I want you to pay attention to the time markers that you hear. And the other thing to know is that for anyone that's a fan of anything Quentin Tarantino, much like myself, great example, Pulp Fiction. Much like the title of the book, actually, it's a story that plays with perspective. So it doesn't go in what we call a linear fashion from beginning to end. It bounces around a little bit. So I'll be sure to remind you of where these scenes change. So without any other interruptions, any other disclaimers, Scott Free. You see, officer, Fred stammers through the partition separating him from the back of Officer O'Brien's ash white hair. What had happened was, oh God, sighs O'Brien, deliberately rolling his eyes toward the squad car's dashboard radio. Here we go again. The radio's clock reads 3:45 a.m. Gotcha. Me and my girl had just had a fight. Really? Says O'Brien, forcing his naturally deep baritone voice up an octave while taking a glance in the rearview mirror at the young suspect. Yeah, man, I mean, sir, she was tripping over some old silly shit, shouting, cursing, and throwing shit. Well, that could explain her ransacked apartment. So what did you do then? I know what you're thinking, but I don't hit no females. I ain't nobody's punk. Sounds like you got really angry, son. Where did you go? Angry? Shit! Red shouts, leaning into the partition, his pecan face now matching his name. I was on 10. I grabbed my shit, hit up my boys, and rolled out to the titty bar for some drinks and shit. That's where I was coming from when you picked me up. And what time was that again? Man, I don't know, about midnight, but I wasn't even nowhere near nobody's bank the whole night. Did you say that your girlfriend works at the credit union? Yes, sir. She's been working there for years before we hooked up last year. So, have you been to her job before? Yeah, but I ain't trying to mess up her gig. Well, you better hope your missing girlfriend turns up safe and sound soon so that she can help establish your alibi. Between your prior offenses, the camera footage, and your prints on the keys, it is not looking too good for you. Switch scene. 10 till 6, thinks Trina, reading the clock at the bank teller's terminal. Time to make a move. She glances with a smirk over to Charlie, the 60-some-odd-old year-old security guard seated by the front door, which displays the hours of operation. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Sunday, closed. Out like a light as usual. He's about as useful as these temperamental security cameras and the alarm system. The downtown branch doesn't have these issues, just us in these more urban areas. Following a slightly modified version of routine closing she developed over her past 5 years as a manager at the credit union, Trina pulls her deposit drawer with one hand while stooping down to grab the 2 small black trash bags from beneath her desk. She goes into the safe to count out the afternoon deposits. Upon exiting, she secures the door with a reverberating slam loud enough to serve as Charlie's evening wake-up call. You calling in the night, sweetheart? Shouts Charlie from his seat near the front door. Yeah, Charlie, Trina replies, suppressing an accomplished giggle. She walks halfway to the front. I'm headed out back with the trash, she says, triumphantly raising a bag for him to see. Should I lock up the rear door as usual? Thanks, sweetheart, Charlie replies with a wave and a yawn. I'll be up to check it in a minute. No problem. Night. Same to you, sweetheart. Trina leaves from the rear, closing the door behind her. Switch scenes. Attention all units, blares the dispatcher's voice, filling the air of O'Brien's squad car. We have a report of a robbery from North Shore Credit Union, estimated time 12:30 a.m. Video footage IDs culprit as a light-skinned African-American male, approximately 20-25 years of age, 6 feet in height, 165 pounds in weight, dark hair, and cornrows. 1:49 a.m., thinks O'Brien, staring at his watch. Looks like we're in for a long night. The culprit was last seen wearing a waist-length black leather jacket, dark color baggy jeans, black leather boots, black leather gloves, dark tinted sunglasses, and a bandana across his face. The disembodied voice of the dispatcher goes on to say, units should also be on the lookout for a person of interest, Trina Carson, a middle-aged, light-skinned African-American female, approximately 5'8" in height, 140 pounds in weight, brown hair and eyes. Carson is also an employee of North Shore Credit Union, last seen during closing at 6 p.m. Switch scenes. Did you honestly think I wouldn't find out Red? Trina shouts, throwing a set of keys at his face. What the hell are you talking about? Red yells in response, catching the keys mid-air. I ain't one of those young silly chicken heads you normally mess around with. I know you've been cheating on me. Oh shit. Oh shit is right. You've been caught up, nigga. Baby, look, Red, please. Crossing the small studio apartment, placing the keys on the nightside table. Don't pull that baby shit with me, Trina replies, avoiding Red's attempt to embrace her. How in the hell you gonna do me like this? I'm around here buying your clothes, cornrolling your nappy ass head. You know what? I don't got no time for this tonight. It's damn near midnight, and some of us have to be at work in the morning. Oh, so we on that shit again. You know it ain't my fault I can't find a job right now. Yeah, and I guess it ain't your fault you got a record either. Fuck this shit, I'm going out. You know what? That is a good fucking idea. Trina goes to her closet, tosses a black leather jacket, a pair of black navy blue jeans, and an empty black trash bag in his general direction. And while you at it, take your shit. What the? He just barely dodges a well-aimed pair of black Timberland boots. Fuck you, Trina. Red stuffs his clothes and boots into the bag and slams the door behind him. Dumb nigga. Trina sighs. Her eyes move intently from the door to the nightstand's keys. Looking to the clock on her VCR, she sees that it is 11:45 p.m., an hour later than it actually is. She rushes back to the closet and pulls out a second leather jacket, a pair of navy blue jeans, and another pair of black boots, all obviously too large for her 5'8", 140-pound frame. Satisfied with the selection, she assembles another more feminine outfit, complete with a short dark brown wig, a nondescript brown short sleeve t-shirt, an ankle-length khaki skirt, and large brown frame tinted sunglasses, and lays it all alongside the first. She goes into the bathroom and takes out a pack of insoles and some small black stuffed garbage bags from under the sink. She opens the last bag and smiles at the sight of several rubber-bound dead presidents, her passport, and a one-way plane ticket to Porto Vallarta on the red eye at 1:45 a.m. Finally, she goes to the mirror, takes a comb in one hand and her long dark brown hair in the other, and begins putting her hair into cornrows. Thank you. And so there you have it. That's my piece. Thanks, guys. It's actually the very first piece in the book. Now, to keep everything going right along, I am going to bring to you my good friend, my good sister, my fellow co-publisher nowadays, Miss SENYAH HAYNES, with her piece. SENYAH, your mic.
Bad form.
No problem.
Ready. Thank you very much. The piece that I'm going to read today is called Transitions. And just briefly, the way this came about was actually, it was an experimental piece. I was trying to refine my writer's process, which is something that in interviews, people constantly ask me about. What's your writer's process? What's your writer's process? And so I was trying to write something every single day. And this kind of stream of thought piece started emerging throughout the month of January last year, actually. So just pre-pandemic writing. This is what it became. So with no further ado, transitions. There was a spot of blood on the floor that was bothering her. She'd sat in the reclining chair by the wall-to-wall window and stared at it, dried and cracking, as she hugged the blanket with the paltry thread count to her chin in a feeble attempt to keep her body heat close. Behind her, through the window, the sky was aglow with the artificial light coming from every right angle that made up the massive complex of the university hospital where she held post. Defibrillators, codes, rib-cracking compressions in the horror film that had become her life. To think that the events of just a few days before didn't foretell this moment would be possible, that the soothing calm of a storm past would envelop her. Joyce now had the privilege to have little in life to bother her at the moment, but a slight chill and an irksome spot of blood that she would neither clean up herself nor call in housekeeping or a nurse to do. Her aunt, the complete apple of her eye, lay sleeping angelically in the bed next to the spot, oblivious to all but what Joyce hoped were sweet dreams. No longer was she intubated, and during her most recent waking hours, she had no recollection of the death and resuscitation her niece had witnessed that was, in fact, her very own. It was 2 a.m., the witching hour, and from the 8th floor of the hospital, the sounds of the city were hauntingly slight. Joyce heard an ambulance cry in the distance, and she craned her neck, then swiveled her whole body in the chair to see it. Fixated, she watched it speed down Cottage Grove Avenue and longed to know that the person inside was going to make it. Days ago, she'd had the same fervent wish that the person inside the racing ambulance would make it, knowing that person was her aunt. Chasing ambulances was much different from staring at them from a bird's eye view, Joyce thought. Considering that to chase them meant the emergency had hit far too close to home, she definitely preferred to stare. Her sudden gasp had started deep in her belly and could have sucked all the air out of the room. Next, she cupped her hand over her mouth with the force of a slap, unable to believe her eyes, but subconsciously realizing that waking the sleeping patient wouldn't make this moment any better. The ambulance, which was just about to turn the corner and head for the ER, had swerved to avoid a jaywalker and plowed straight into a pole. Cleo was dog-ass tired. It was hard enough being homeless, let alone in the wintertime in Chicago. Between the too thin jacket, the hole in his left shoe, and the heroin coursing through his veins that had long ceased to offer escape, but now just fought off sickness, he was fucked up. Living day by day was a distant dream. Cleo was living moment to moment, and as he reached in his pocket, he anticipated with almost childlike delirium the escape the next few moments would hold. He shuffled along, stumbling in his haze, but never falling, and dug deeper in his pocket, searching for his treasure. Damn, not the left pocket. That one was nothing but ripped cotton. He felt himself scratch his leg with filthy nails, and his hand passed through the shredded lining. That felt good. He scratched again, harder this time, trying to satisfy an itch that never quite went away. At this point, he wasn't sure anymore if it was the chemical cocktail that served as his blood that made him itch insatiably from the inside, or the near gelatinous coating of grime that had glazed his skin like honey on a ham. He hadn't been able to bathe now in 12 days, not since his girl put him out for the last and final time. Goddamn, he thought. She'd been mad as a bag of bees when she came home to the scene he'd hardly been aware he had set for her. Him nodding out with a needle sticking out of his arm wasn't any kind of novelty, and hardly a straw distinguished enough to be the camel's backbreaker. No, he was pretty sure it was the naked woman passed out on the floor next to him, ass sweat seeping into his girl's favorite chenille couch throw cover that had done the trick. He woke up to the woman who he'd only really messed around with on an irregular basis and had never brought back home before, screaming and cursing. A large chunk of her hair was vice gripped in his lady's hand, and she was offering her a physical escort through the front door. Then she ran back to toss out her clothes. Then she ran back for him. In an undignified encounter of fed up meeting lost cause, Cleo didn't reach full consciousness until he was walking firmly in the end result, down the street, 5 blocks from his former home of the last 3 years, with 2 black eyes and nothing but the clothes on his back. It was time for another hit. But that seemed forever ago, and now, as he scratched his left leg nearly to the white meat, he could faintly hear the wail of an ambulance coming closer. There wasn't a soul in sight, and at this hour, traffic was equally as sparse. He'd been shuffling along, seemingly outside of time, down dark sidewalks, in alleys, across the park, and wide intersections, all with an equal lack of general regard for anything further than his one foot after the other. He now fished for his treasure again, this time in his right pocket, where he stored his loose change. He found it there, right where he had left it. It was a moment of delight he'd been saving for the right time to maximize its effort. And since he was now walking down the streets that snaked through the university hospital complex, there was plenty of light and safety. "I ain't never," he said aloud as he unfolded the picture he'd been saving since he'd found it in a garbage can sometime around dusk. It had been nestled in a heartbreak time capsule, but because Cleo couldn't eat, drink, sell, spend, or shoot up the contents surrounding it, he'd hardly noticed. As he'd sifted through the broken bottle of perfume, the love letters ripped in half, the positive pregnancy test, and the red lace panties that hadn't been hers, he'd hardly blinked twice. But when he'd come across that photo, the only one that wasn't shredded but simply crumbled up, his enchantment was swift and complete. Heroin was his escape of chemical need at this point, but his true escape of choice had always been the delicious daydream. As he stepped off the curb, he didn't notice the little red walking man blinking on and off because he didn't bother to look up, nor did he hear the ambulance siren that had been steadily growing closer until it was a screaming alarm because he didn't bother to listen. All he knew was that at first sight, he'd been swept away on a cotton candy cloud by the image of a life so starkly different from his own, and he'd been waiting for hours for enough light to gaze upon it. First, he felt the violent rush of air that blew the photo out of his hand. With that, he was yanked from his innermost thoughts and could suddenly hear the screech of tires and scream of the siren, its white and red beacons nearly blinding him from their proximity. As the vehicle spun and careened into the light pole, it began to dawn on Cleo that his life had been narrowly spared due to an apparently skilled driver's micro decision to yank on the wheel at his or her own peril, as opposed to sending Cleo to meet his maker. "Shit," Cleo blurted, standing in the middle of the street where the vehicle should have had free passage. As the cocktail in his veins added the ingredient of adrenaline, he felt his feet moving before he even realized why. Running at full speed in the direction he had come from, Cleo looked over his shoulder with a twinge of sadness at the photo of that bougie couple he'd left lying in the intersection. Damn, he thought, and he raced across the street and was swallowed by the darkness of the park. The red emergency lights that illuminated the photo were its complete antithesis. There was nothing at all urgent about that image of Sasha and Jerry lying on that hammock near the Shark and Bake Shack on that beach in Tobago. That is my excerpt. Thank you very much.
SENYAH, yes! Girl, you did it. And I'm gonna put it out there real quick. That mic issue was not her. I saw it at the last minute that it wasn't up, and I went to click it. She probably clicked it, and I clicked her off. So I want y'all to know that that is not her professionalism. That was me. But SENYAH, thank you. I've been telling people for the longest. Everybody knows SENYAH for amazing children's literature. And SENYAH, baby, she does it all. SENYAH does it all. She does it all. So that's just a sample of some of the other things she does outside of Jayless Chance. You're going to hear some more about Jayless Chance very, very soon. But to keep the ball rolling, we are going to bring up now Mr. DONELL Bonaparte.
I got to remember to do the mic thing there. Well, thanks so much for having me and for including me in this wonderful volume. It's not something that I saw in my future. So when it came to me, I couldn't help but, I mean, how can I say no? So thanks for allowing me to be part of this. Several times in his life, a man has to take what he has been taught and join it with what he has learned through experience. And if he's lucky, he'll achieve a synthesis, a composite of life lessons that he can draw from and utilize. My story, Synthesis, which is part of a larger work, Walking to Jupiter, tells of one such moment in a man's life. And I'm just going to jump right in. When Zeke was 5, Hezekiah, his father, removed the training wheels from his bike. The boy rode around the block once, then promptly tumbled from it onto the sidewalk. With skinned knees, he scampered up to their apartment above the cafe they owned. His mother, Odessa, perched the sniffling boy on the toilet seat and applied peroxide with cotton balls. Her sweet humming filled the room as she gently cleaned his scrapes. They were there only a minute before his father came home from work for lunch. He squeezed into the bathroom and stood over mother and son. Without a second thought, he reached over his wife's head and handed a few toilet paper squares to the boy. "Dry your eyes. Be a man," he said. "You'll live." "Now, Hezzy, he just fell off his bike." Yeah. Stern yet caring eyes met Zeke's. but you won't get the hang of riding that bike if you stop trying. So Zeke wiped his watery eyes. A few years later, at 8 years old, Zeke sat before an open math book on the dining table. I'm so stupid, I'll never get this. Odessa, cocoa face weary, hazel eyes sunken, had completed 2 years of chemo treatments by then. She tightened the scarf around her smooth skull and turned in her chair to face her boy. Don't you ever let me hear you say that again. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them, and encouraged Zeke to try the next problem, subtracting fractions with different denominators. Hezekiah trudged through the front door a short time later, having completed the additional errands he'd taken on after his work shift. He took a deep breath, straightened his posture, and strode past the pair into the kitchen. He returned moments after with a refilled prescription for Odessa and a cold root beer for a frustrated Zeke. I know it's hard, he said, squeezing Zeke's shoulder. Zeke peered up at him. I don't want to fail the test on Friday, Daddy. He tried to suppress the misery in his voice. Hezekiah kept his tone steady, refusing to coddle. You'll lick those problems yet, son. Keep at it. And if you fail the test on Friday, then you just better try twice as hard on the next one. Be a man. His mother nodded her agreement. The dimple in her cheek winked at Zeke when he smiled. A year later, the cancer finally claimed her. 6 months after the burial, a squawking car alarm awoke 9-year-old Zeke from a spring slumber. His Mr. T alarm clock read 11:43 p.m. He got up, went to the bathroom, then to his dad's room to check in on him, a habit he had developed since the funeral. His father's bed was empty. Zeke ambled through the house, searching each room, but his father was nowhere within. The boy's stomach fluttered. He might still be downstairs in the coffee shop, but at this hour, Hezekiah always closed up at 8 p.m. sharp and was upstairs by 8:30 usually. So Zeke padded into the kitchen, entered the pantry, pulled back a set of shelves, which triggered the electric bulb that illuminated the 18 steps leading down to the first floor. He descended the staircase and reemerged in the hallway at the back of the cafe. He looked to his left. The shop was closed. The floodlights and overheads were dimmed. Gray shadows washed over chairs, stools, tables, and booths. The car alarm that woke him up in the first place squawked louder now, and he was on the first floor. Then the alarm abruptly shut itself off, leaving behind instant silence. A twinge of fright rose up in the boy. Thoughts of the movie Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger wielding razor-sharp finger knives twisted in his stomach. Hezekiah would have told him, be a man. You know that stuff in the movies ain't even real. True. But the fact didn't stop his heart from slamming inside his chest. Besides, Zeke had never been left entirely alone in the building. Wiping sweat from his forehead, he tiptoed down the hallway toward the swinging doors that led into the kitchen. Porthole windows in the doors loomed over him, higher than his 50-inch frame. Still, he could see that the kitchen lights were on. The boy almost leaped back when he heard the whimper come from the other side of the doors. Be a man. He retrieved a Louisville Slugger baseball bat from a corner inside the stairwell, then returned to the swinging doors. He listened closely for a long moment, but heard nothing. He brought the bat up slowly and shouldered the doors open, keeping his body halfway in, halfway out of the kitchen. Zeke took in the rectangular island in the middle of the room. Dozens of scrubbed pots and pans dangled like ornaments from the contraption above it. His eyes swept the area. It was just like his father liked it, a place for everything and everything in its place. An industrial-sized dishwasher, triple sink, and eight burner stove lined the right wall. A countertop with small appliances stretched on the left. And dominating the back wall was the walk-in cooler with its chrome door. A sniffling sound floated from that direction. Zeke entered the room, circling the left side of the workspace. He paused to listen again. Almost a full minute went by in silence before he heard another sniffle. Zeke set his jaw. He gripped the handle and sprang from his hiding space, ready to swing like Hank Aaron. Hezekiah Miller Sr. was seated on a stone-tiled floor, sobbing. Would you like to know what happens next? Get the book. We'd love for you to have it. Thanks a lot.
You did it, brother. You did it. Oh, I love that. Oh, that whole scene. And I read the rest. So y'all got to get the book. I read the rest. And I'm going to put it out there and let everybody know that when you get the book, read that forward. All right. We were blessed with a forward from Mr. James Earl Hardy, best-selling author, right? Several times over. And he read that piece. He read all of them. He actually gave a minor endorsement of each piece. But that one in particular, he said, is already a commercial success, and you see why. All right? So get From a Black Perspective, The Blood, and look for Walking to Jupiter very, very soon. All right. Without further ado, we're going to bring up our next panelist, Mr. Ken Compton.
Thank you, Eddie Pierce, and thank you to Rainbow Room Publishing for including me in the anthology. To my fellow authors, it is an honor to be among you. To our viewers, thank you for spending a part of your afternoon with us for the virtual release of From a Black Perspective, The Blood. The story that I have included in the anthology is Graffiti Park. It's a story that I've had for a number of years. In fact, an earlier draft was published previously online. Now, for those who have not read it, it is a story of crime fiction with an element of magic added to it. This afternoon, I will read the opening of the story and introduce the protagonist who was called in to solve the crime. This is Graffiti Park. Her body was pinned to the ground under his girth. Her clothes were torn off. She squirmed against the warm soil, the effort more exhausting than helpful, and cringed as he positioned himself between her thighs. He had threatened to slit her throat if she screamed. What had she learned in self-defense? The practice dummy never attacked, and tucked in the shorts down by her feet, the mace was unreachable. She clenched her teeth to block his slithering tongue, but was capable of nothing else. A beam of sunlight shone through the trees, giving her a lasting glimpse of the devil. White, hair blonde, beard scruffy, eyes brown and beady. She laid her head back and rolled her eyes up to darkness. The pleasure in his face was too awful, and the stench of oysters and whiskey was worthy of vomit. She saw someone. An enormous figure had emerged from the shadows against the trees. He headbutted her and spat. Stupid bitch. Her body went numb. She blacked out. Change scene. Steve Reichert lay spread-eagled and partially awake under a single bed sheet. He fumbled for his watch on the nightstand. It was 9:34 a.m. The remnant of bitter scotch intensified his morning breath. Winning Officer of the Year at the previous night's banquet had made it an occasion for more than a Bud Light. Thank God for the rookies who had given him a lift. A few more drinks and he would have been bound to the bed with regret throbbing throughout his cranium. The phone rang. A smack of the speaker button nearly broke the landline. Reichert here. Rise and shine, shitface, said a baritone voice. I need you to come in. On the first day of my vacation, Chief? Really? I got the mayor on my ass over a rape and assault about 3 hours ago. You calling me in for a rape and assault? It happened in Graffiti Park. Steve sat up and reached for a fresh pack of Newport. The first smoke of the day was his favorite. I'm listening. The victim is a 23-year-old Caucasian female, came in through a side gate in the North Sector and got attacked by an unknown. What was she doing in graffiti? An early jogger, new to the city, didn't know about the park's reputation. Steve took a deep drag and kept listening. First responders found a bloody knife on the scene, but no stab wounds on the girl, and no blood trail in sight either. The dogs picked up a scent from a bloody knife at the scene, but the search came up empty. How are we looking on forensics? The prints on the knife were no good for a match, and 72 hours is the latest for a full serology. This isn't a lot to start with, Chief. You solved more with less, Chilombo. Steve Reichert's case-solving ability had earned him that nickname. Although he preferred the lead detective title, he was less intuitive than Sherlock Holmes, but more empirical than Columbo, at least according to his own assessment. All right, I'll be there as soon as I can. There's one more thing, Steve. The girl saw somebody before blacking out, and we suspect this person contacted dispatch. You suspect? What about the call trace? Silence lingered before the chief spoke again. There was no call trace. Wait. Steve threw his legs over the bedside. How was dispatch contacted? They weren't notified by phone or by anyone in person. Apparently, some strange audio announcement resonated in the dispatch office and said a rape victim would be found in the North Sector's undergrowth. They thought it was a joke, but sent patrol to the area to follow protocol, and sure enough, the girl was there. I don't understand it fully, which is another reason why I need you to get this thing done ASAP. The scar on Steve's lower leg ignited with an itch. Steve, you there? I'm here. Another moment of silence while he scratched. A thought solidified into relief. Hey, Chief. He leaned toward the speakerphone. What did this voice sound like? I'm told it was an elderly woman with an Irish accent. Holy shit, it can't be, he thought. Okay, I need to see the crime scene for myself. Why so sudden? You have a lead on this woman's identity? Not at all, just trusting my instincts, Steve said with guilt and lying. Well, let me have some uniforms meet you at the main entrance. There's a heat advisory today, plus only a fool will go there with no backup. They'll only distract me. If you want the best outcome, let me do it my way. The chief sighed. Crime scene cordon off the area by the runner's trail. Watch yourself and call in anything you find right away. I owe you one for this. I'm on it. You owe me more than one, Chief. The curtains were drawn, but the adjacent hallway light lit the smoky room adequately. Steve looked down the hall at Bane, his Doberman, who was still asleep on the doggy bed. He paced in the bedroom, searching for logic in the impossible and thumping ashes in an empty pickle jar with each pass around the king-size sleigh bed. An elderly woman with an Irish accent, he thought. She must be 300 years old by now. Steve lifted his leg onto an ottoman. The scar had not bothered him since that night years ago. Why now? He bit his lower lip and glanced at the desk where he kept the 5x7 portrait of himself as a 6-year-old standing in front of his parents whose faces he had cut out. Meanwhile, the day's best smoke was burning away. One deep drag, and he dismissed all questions. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the opening and the introduction to the protagonist of Graffiti Park. Thank you.
I'm gonna put it out there, blue fire, brother, blue fire, all day, all day. I know. Man, look, you didn't get to see the comments necessarily, but we already got our good sister Yvonne Winbush asking, when is the rest of that story coming out? And I'll put it out there that it's we looking forward in December of 2021. This brother is writing, he is working, he is revising. He is getting it done. Make sure y'all see these comments, man, because the family is coming through. Thank you guys so much. Man, so much to say about that piece. I've heard more about it. I can't wait to see the bag lady. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all need to get to this story just for the bag lady. For real, for real, for real. But that's an awesome transition, talking about an amazing man of Phi Beta Sigma, myself being one. And this shirt you may have noticed that I swapped into doing a good old Diana Ross wardrobe change from back in the day. You can find this from another amazing man of Phi Beta Sigma, my good brother Elvis Terrell Bryson. The company name is scrolling across the bottom right there. It's Qualities Design LLC, and you see the website right there. Black is king all day, all day, all day. Black is what? 365. All right, so we got that in. Want to make sure we gave that brother some love because he's just great. He's great at what he does. Next thing real quick, and I kind of warned the authors that we were going to do this, and I'm going to mute you guys in a second. Just hold on. Anybody that is an artist, anybody that works with artists, you know that, man, we have a lot of emotional needs, myself included. And, you know, it's such a joy working with you all. But I had to go and recruit some help to encourage you guys to keep doing the amazing things that you're doing. Now, keep in mind, I scoured the internet, scoured the world, scoured social media, and I really didn't give anybody a timetable when I asked them to send you guys some love. Unfortunately for today, I only got 2 of those messages. The rest are coming, and you all will see more of them throughout the year, as well as more from these amazing authors that are present, and the 2 young ladies, KATRINA the Hurricane Harvey, host of the Seven Figure Girls podcast, and Crystal RENÉE, the owner, operator, CEO, founder of Dreamwriter Inc. You're going to hear from them soon. But Brother Ken Compton, and I purposely did this after the performances because I didn't want anybody to feel any kind of way and get thrown off with their performances. I'm muting y'all and I'm keeping y'all muted with good reason. We're gonna come out of this stream so that you can see this in.
Hey Ken, I just want you to know how proud I am of you. I know how much of a dream this is for you, and it just makes me so happy to see you accomplishing all of your dreams. And I know you have so much more ahead of you, so many more publications, so many more books, and I just can't wait to see all of it unfold. So congratulations, brother. Love you.
Mr. Compton, any notes, any words? Any tears?
Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you, Eddie. A little bit overwhelmed, you know. At the beginning, I've been writing for years, but I'm definitely at the beginning. I have to just say thank you again for re-energizing me as a writer, because I had left the story kind of dormant, but you renewed my interest in myself as a writer, and thank you so much for encouraging me, and thank you for including me in this anthology. It means more than you really know, and thank you for that surprise. It was totally unexpected. Oh my goodness.
And that's why I said, I thought about it last night. I said, don't show them this before they read. That's not a good idea. A friend of mine is born out of the idea, a friend of mine, and I'm muting you guys again, just gonna say side, but a friend of mine, when I did my first book release, and some of you saw some of the video on Rainbow Room Publishing Live, the premiere episode this past Thursday, and I spread it around a few other times, where a good friend of mine, Miss Nzinga Ryan, she went all behind my back at my first release, and she filmed several friends and family members, and later on she showed me, good God, at least 10 videos The one that I shared most recently was from my mom, so that inspired me to do this. And as I said, you know, I've been asking people, and they've all emphatically said yes. It's just a matter of time. So when I get them, I'm going to share them. But now is a good time, honestly, too, for me to mention as well that you know, you all keep thanking me for being a part of this project. And I even had cause to think about this even today, that many people may know that I purposely took off the author hat for a minute so that I could only wear the publishing hat. And they can speak to it. These panelists can speak to it. Oh, Sam, you can speak to it. That it is not easy doing both. And I've known for some time that I do both fairly well, but if I could get the chance to do one or the other, I would be dynamic. And so what you guys did for me in this project, honestly, was it gave me a little bit of time to be the author, to be the artist, okay? Because I think you can all relate that this is an outlet that we need. And so it was an opportunity in the midst of all of the busyness for me to turn my attention back to my writing. And you see how short that piece was. That was my piece in its entirety. There is no novel coming, although I do want to know where Miss Trina, how she got, in my head, Miss Trina got to Puerto Vallarta, and then she bounced from there like the next day. She's going to keep it moving. Y'all ain't going to catch her. But it's already in my head that we're going to bring the story up to date, where there will be cell phones and Red is going to come back with a vengeance. So, but no, this was an opportunity, even in the midst of everything else that you guys saw me doing, to be an author. And there's no way that this project, my time as an author in this season, would have happened without you all. So please know that I infinitely thank you and love you guys. So we got one more of those, and like I said, I'm working on them, and it was so hard trying to get them behind y'all back. You have no idea, but it's been fun. So we got one more. This one goes out to Mr. DONELL Bonaparte. Are you ready? I love this. I feel like Diane Sawyer, or was it Barbara Walters, that always had people crying on camera.
DONELL, welcome to the Literary Brotherhood. Congrats on the world finally getting a sneak peek at your baby, Walking to Jupiter. I know it's been a long time coming, and it's only the beginning. Hat tip and salute to you.
Mr. Bonaparte, do you have any response?
What the hell?
You confirmed for me not to show it to you before you read.
Oh my God. Tell me you are recording this. Oh my
yes,
God.
I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And there will be the replays and everything. It'll stay up on YouTube, definitely. It's going to stay up actually everywhere. Yeah. For anyone who does not know, that is Mr. James Earl Hardy himself, best-selling author of the B-Boy Blues series. There are about 7 books in the series now. There's already a stage play, and there's a movie coming up. But as I mentioned before, he did the foreword, and he's endorsed the entire work and endorsed all of us. But I was able to get him to give you a video tribute.
I knew it all the time. No, I didn't. Oh
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
That was good. That was you know, you write, you wonder if the voice is coming across. You wonder where you are, and that moments like that where you get that, you know, that push, that shove, that kick in the ass. That was great. Oh wow, yeah. I am verklempt. I am wow. I am me who always got something to say. I ain't got nothing to say. Wow, that was good.
No, I reached out a while back.
I'm gonna try to do James, you all, and myself proud, because wow, that was good.
Brother's already done. It's already done. It's already done. And for anybody who does not know, man, Brother Darnell has been writing furiously. Okay, and we're gonna put it out there. We are looking forward to Darnell's full novel, Walk into Jupiter, sometime this November. And we are looking for Mr. Ken Compton's full work, Graffiti Park, the first of the series. And I know Darnell has more books too coming. Mr. Compton's piece will be coming in December. And then, of course, Miss SENYAH HAYNES is all the time working. All the time working. Jayla's about to jaunt. She's currently in Arizona. She's about to hop on to Arkansas. You guys are going to hear about the virtual release that we're going to do for that. We're aiming for May the 8th, the day before Mother's Day, but more information coming. So as I mentioned before, every author in the book, and I definitely want to make sure so I can show our counterparts that aren't here today, Miss Katrina Harvey in the middle and Miss Crystal RENÉE on the end there. They also have works that are coming out this year. The two of them are aiming for early summer. And the beautiful part for me is that they all want to come through Rainbow Room Publishing. So you guys are just making my job so much easier and just really contributing so much to the company. But we got a number of guests here. Thank God. We knew y'all were coming in faith. And we want to give you guys the opportunity to type your questions in the comment section. I will be looking at those. Anyone that wants to do, send something, even in the message, you can say, hey, don't show this on screen if you don't want to show it on the screen. But I will definitely read those. And while we are, oh, wow. Yeah, you're gonna need a lot of money. You're gonna need a lot of money. Yeah, because Jayla alone is gonna be at least, what did we say, Sandy? We aiming for like we wanted 8 books this year. 8 books this year total. And we already couldn't. Sandy is writing Delaware. She's working on Delaware. So we just got Arizona. We got Arkansas coming soon. She's already working on California. I've already spilled the beans a little bit about the fact that we're gonna see the Black Panthers. And she's already looking at Delaware. So, yeah, Yvonne and everybody else listening, y'all wanna go ahead, put your coins together, leave that Starbucks alone for a minute. Yes, Natasha, you need to start a library. Start with our books first. You can put whatever else you want up there after that. Just make sure that when folks come to your house, they can see, all of that. Also, before we move into the questions, I want to make sure everyone knows that this is volume 1 of 3. All right. Now, number 2, we actually already have 4 of the confirmed authors for number 2, which will drop in November, where this is from a Black perspective, The Blood. That will be from a Black perspective, The People. And for anyone that does not know where we're going with this, I am drawing inspiration from the Pan-African flag. So there's the red book, there will be the black book, there will be the green book, and the titles respectively, The Blood, The People, The Motherland. The thing that I love the most, and you guys have to visualize it for a little bit longer, at least until almost this time next year when number 3 will come out, is that when they're all on the bookshelf together, red, black, green, there's your Pan-African flag. So make sure that you guys have this book on your shelf. Let's see here. Oh, we got another one, huh? Yes. You're gonna need your money. You need a couple of accounts. Yvonne, you need some money in general. You need some money for some shoes. You need some money for Taylor's Johns. You need some money for everything else coming from Rainbow Road Publishing and everything else you're doing. Now, I wanted to take you guys off of mute. Well, actually, you can take yourself off of mute. And the first question, so we had some questions that were submitted beforehand. I definitely want to send a shout out to my good brother, Brandon Brown, here in Dallas, who gave me a number of these questions, just so we could have some in advance and let us get our feet wet and our speed up. So we're gonna start with this first one, which is actually, it was specifically for me. And it says, and I should have put these in captions, but I didn't think about it. What has it been like to receive mentorship from James Earl Hardy for nearly 20 years? So to make that plain and put it out there correctly, Mr. Hardy and I, Brother Hardy and I, because man, it was the most, okay, that answers the question. I first met him through Facebook. A fellow author, I saw that he had a review from Mr. Hardy, and I believe that he also did his editing. And so I was like, well, how did you do that? You know, because I have been reading the B-Boy Blues in tandem with reading the Invisible Life series from the late, great Evelyn Harris, great contemporary of James Earl Hardy. And so as I was getting my book done, I reached out, and he was so gracious. And I want everybody to know that a couple of things about this. One, this is business. This is business. This man is bringing star power to your work, just like he did for this anthology, right? So you sometimes, well, actually, he's done a number of reviews for me for free that were shorter, but for my first work, Love Something Infinite, he wrote, man, like a page and a half review. And granted, I did pay him. It was a contractual thing, and it's fair. It's rightly so, because he's taking time out of his schedule writing what he writes to read what I've written, you know, an untested author, and then to write about it and give me permission to share his words everywhere as a marketing piece. And so that's really how we first connected. And then we were in touch on social media for some time. And then probably there's never been a formal mentor process, but I have been able to ask some questions, drop some questions, even across the topic. You know, we've done anthology stuff. I've never done one. How would you suggest we go about it? So he's been more so that literary big brother. I love the fact that when he wrote the first review, he welcomed me to the literary brotherhood. So, you know, it was my opportunity to do the same here for our brothers and sisters that haven't been published yet. And even though Senya's been published several times, it's awesome to see her break out and have an opportunity where she didn't have to do so much to show us the variety in which she can write. And we already talked about some other great things. Hint, 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 snow in her afro. Girl, we doing it. I got a question about it not too long ago in an interview, but our good friend Michelle Brown. But yeah, so that was all great. And then I looked up and I was inspired by God to do a book tour that brought Brother Hardy to Chicago for 3 days. This was back in 2018. And thanks to DONELL, he was instrumental in making sure that he had 5-star accommodations, baby. He had a suite in the Four Seasons downtown, child. And so, yes, all 4 seasons. And I already, and there's no deal because I already put out the sponsors back in, and I did a flashback Friday, go back Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it is, not too long ago, where I showed those sponsors again. But that for me was the highlight, honestly, of knowing and being associated with Mr. Hardy. We were on the move that whole time, and when I tell you, he was just so gracious about everything. We riding around in my busted Mustang, and I'm moving him from hotel to the north side, back to the hotel, from the hotel to the south side, from there back to the hotel to the west side, and then onto a plane. And we had an awesome time. And actually, that's when I first found out about DONELL's piece. He told us a scene that's not even in what y'all read. And the postage stamp. You know what I'm talking about? Right. I'm not gonna give it away because I'm gonna let them read it. Y'all gotta get that book. Right. Y'all gotta get this one now. Get that book. But no, he told James Earl Hardy and I about, you know, a scene from this book, and I kept seeing that scene. So when it came time to do this, you know, I was like, DONELL, where are you at that with that? We need it. I need it. I need it. I need it. But no, there were a number of moments in addition to the presentations that he did to the public, for the public, that were amazing. And we had, you know, he's not a big talker. I'm the talker. But we had a number of conversations in the car, on the move. And I think probably the most amazing thing for me was that I remember saying to him at one point, sir, I've been looking at everything you're doing. And after looking at this, at that point, I had been at this for 7 or 8 years. I said, I can do 8 more easy. 8 more easy after seeing what you do. And then I got even more perspective. Come on, that's the word of the day, right? Pee Wee Herman, every time you hear the magic word, perspective. He gave me some great perspective when he reminded me, one, that publishing is not what it was back in the day. You know, there were a lot more opportunities. And two, that I've been wearing both hats for the longest. And it made me think, well, man, where would I be if all I had to do was the publisher or the author in these 8 years? You know, so it was another reason that I turned my attention primarily to publishing. So, you know, long answer, like I said in several interviews recently, I'm a novelist. I don't do brief. So that's question number one. Question number two, and this is for the entire panel. How does each panelist feel about the foreword from James Earl Hardy?
Well, it was, well, coming from James Earl, again, okay, so I don't know how important James Earl is to the rest of the world, but he's very important to me and to all of us, I think. But he was the one back in the, you know, it's like, I'm talking like James Baldwin, Larry Duplichan, Elian Harris, James Earl Hardy. You know, that's the echelon that he belongs on up there, because it was the first time that, you know, James Baldwin was the first time that I saw a Black gay man do, you know, this story. Larry Duplichan was the first time I saw a Black gay man, you know, in the print, not really feeling guilty about his sexuality. Elian Harris was the first time that I saw a Black gay man on the page where the story was not about coming out. And James Earl Hardy was the first time that I saw a Black gay man not giving a fuck about being Black or gay, and he did what he did. And the story was about how he, you know, found love. And I have a personal connection to each of those authors and each of those works. So to get an endorsement from him, it felt like a welcome into a fraternity, even though I'm not fully into the fraternity yet because I haven't finished the book. But it felt so affirming. And like I said before, it pushes you to go on, because writing lots of times is something that hangs in the background and it's not going to get itself done. You have to get up and you have to do it. And some days it's easy, but Lord have mercy, some days it is not. And on those days when it is not, I think of James Earl saying, when you're going to get the book done, you have to get this done. I think of his endorsement because I don't want to make him out to be a liar, and I don't want to sit on this. It's like a baby waiting to be birthed. And James Earl and Larry and James Baldwin, rest in peace, and Elian Harris, rest in peace, are midwives to me trying to birth this baby. So that's how I feel about it.
Man, if I could tag in real quick, two things. I'm going to respectfully correct you, brother. You already in. You're already in. It's the same thing, honestly, I told one of the authors for the next book. We got to get off this thing of being published. We got to get off this thing of being published. You are a writer. Okay, you are a writer. A writer does what? They write. Okay, you're in. You're in. Done. Done. Anybody else want to tackle that one? I'm sorry, I muted while Darnell was speaking.
Well, for me, any positive reinforcement I can get on anything that I do, I always accept it. And to be endorsed by a New York Times best-selling author means everything. Like Donell said, it's an affirmation. I appreciated everything that he said, not only about my piece, but about everybody's piece. And it is a definite motivator to keep going. And if writing is something that you are meant to do, I always tell people, not just with writing, but with anything, no devil in hell and no man on earth can prevent it. So flow in that, keep going. I was very appreciative. I've never met James Earl Hardy. I had definitely heard of him, but I've never met him. But it was, like I said, it was a moment of affirmation for me. I kept reading it over and over again. It felt like, being in this business, you go see yourself on the bookshelf and it's like, okay, all right, yeah, I can do this. I'm here. Yeah. So I was motivated, and I hope that to get more endorsements from anyone that I can. So thank you. Mr. Hardy. I appreciate
it. Sorry, the endorsements are coming. Thank you. Say my girl. Say it's my girl. She always got my back. She catches the commas. She catches it all. Thank you. But say, did you want to take that one as well?
No, absolutely. I'm grateful to Mr. Hardy for the words. I believe every writer, first, you're writing for yourself because you're compelled or you're pulled. For some reason, you have to get these words out. And then your next thought is your audience. So who is going to be the recipient of these words? Will they care for it as I do? Will they understand what it was that I meant to express? And then there are your peers, fellow writers in the field. And I think that appreciation from each of those groups, self-included, feels different. And they're very important. So I was honored and very grateful that he took the time to read my piece and give his words to uplift it. He specifically said it was a kaleidoscope work. And given the experimental nature that it was for me, as a writer, that's probably the words I would have used. So he kind of hit it on the head, the way that I was going in and out of the vignettes. And then his closing remark about it was that I gave the characters vivid shine. And how nice, how lovely. So thank you, Mr. Hardy. I did appreciate it.
Man, I swear, I feel like now I should have just moved heaven and earth to have him here, but he will see the replay. I'll make sure everybody sees it, honestly. But yeah, no, I totally agree with everyone's sentiment that it's one thing to believe in yourself, and it's another when someone outside of you believes in what you're doing. And there are levels to all of it, right? There's my mom, there's my family, there are my friends, several of you who have done that for me. On the panel and anybody that's listening, that has been a number of the things that has just said, okay, Eddie, when you're not feeling it yourself, they're affirming. And then of course, yes, you come through and it's almost like God stepping down from heaven and stamping that stamp of approval. Boy, you got it, run with it, so yes, I hear you guys on that. Next question I have here is, what keeps you motivated to continue pursuing your literary dreams and goals? Anybody? Because I'm trying not to make a school and call you out.
And what? Say the question again. What keeps you
motivated to continue pursuing your literary dreams and goals?
Yes, outside family, my husband, my mother, my coworkers, guys like you, my writing group, my other writing group that I'm in, who make sure that I have to, who make sure that I turn in pages that are being read and critiqued, what have you. The main thing that keeps me motivated and keeps me going, believe it or not, are Truman and Zeke and Mr. Sangster and Geneva, who are all characters in Walking to Jupiter. They're like little voices that will not leave you alone until you get them down. They're like little people that's saying, I need to be heard, I need to be heard, I need to be heard, and you are the only voice that can give them voice. You're the only voice that can, bring their voice through. So the main thing that's helping me now are them. And my family and friends and other writers they're pillars for me to lean upon when Zeke and Truman and everybody drives me crazy.
Excellent answer. Excellent answer. Because honestly, I think about that with that's how I got. Actually, yeah, from my first book to my second to my third. For me, it was more so a thing of curiosity about some of the characters. I found myself wanting to know who they were. And similar to what you said, and I've said this on interviews several times, I am not crazy, don't put me in a straitjacket, but it is almost a thing of hearing this voice that is just screaming to get out. Nothing else in life works until I get that voice out, So I totally agree with that. Anybody else want to hit on that one? We got a couple if you don't.
For me, the same thing that you both just said. If writing is your purpose, it won't go away. It won't. It'll keep eating at you. Like, look, this is what you meant to do. This is your purpose. Sit your butt down. Get at the keyboard. Just start typing away. Even if you suck at it, you can only improve. And that's I've experienced the same thing. Even during the times where I wasn't writing, it just wouldn't go away. I still have this belief in me that this is something that I can do, with something that I can be financially successful at. It won't go away. It won't leave me alone, even when in my own self-doubt. It's just there's that voice that keeps, like I said, it just keeps nagging at me, and it really, really will not go away, and it'll never go away until you get it down and get it on paper. That's why, once again, I just have to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. So it's definitely that confirmation that I need to keep on going. And everybody keeps wondering, well, what's happening next in Graffiti Park? I don't want to spoil any surprises or anything like that, but I am going to use the short story as a foundation. I got some things planned. It's a foundation for the book series that's coming. So a lot more to come. So, but like I said, all this time, even when I wasn't writing, it didn't go away. It didn't leave me alone. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Did you want to weigh in? It's up to you.
Absolutely. So for me, motivation is a plural. It's not singular. So there are several different things that motivate me. It really depends on the project. So for Jayla's Johns, the first thing that motivated me was just I wanted to have some semblance of a relationship with a niece that was absent from my life. But now the motivation is I talk too much, so I got to put my money where my mouth is. I said 50, so I got to keep working, and I'm really motivated to just kind of not look like a fool, right? For other works, the motivation could be just a burning need to express at that moment, and it might or might not be for an audience's eyes. I'm working on different I'm part of a writer's room right now, and I'm working on a TV series, and the motivation there is to enhance my skills as a collaborator, because I've been kind of solo dolo as a writer throughout my career. And so really the motivation, obviously I want a good product and I want the best work, but the goal to do that is to learn how to work with a team of writers and get stuff out. And then it's interesting. He said that one of his pieces he's going to continue further. Actually, in Transitions, there is one vignette that I want to take and make its own standalone piece. I'm kind of playing right now with the format. Do I want a novel, a novella? But it's about state violence against Black bodies, and my motivation right now to really give that piece life and voice and get that out is life. You know, we're in this moment that's not at all unique for this country, but except in its emphasis and spotlight, and you kind of can't get away from it. And when I say you, it's a collective, like kind of everybody can't get away from it, not just the people who were traditionally impacted by it. And it's outrageous, and it's a lot. So that's my motivation for that. So to stop being long-winded, as many writers are, because we love words, right? I'll just say I have many motivations. You got to be specific and ask me which project we're talking about. I can't hear you.
I get it. I wish you could have seen, like, I'm fighting with keeping myself in the camera and making you guys big. Because when you said that one of those vignettes was going to turn to something longer, I was like, oh. And it's like every time you do something like this, saying you always get me because you'll do an interview, and I'm like, she didn't tell me she was going to do that. And then I turn around and I'm on the phone with you, like, girl, I didn't know you were going to do that. Like, how quick can we get through Jayla? So look, you got a yes queen. Look at that. Boom. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
Thank you.
And make sure Miss Wimbush, she's going to be buying a second copy of everything she bought. Because,
yeah, we done mailed out to Miss Wimbush. Thank you, Yvonne.
No. But I'm saying she's going to get another one because she's threatening to keep the copy she's supposed to give to her little cousins. So I said, well, girl, just go ahead and buy some more. So, but no, I love that you spoke to that. You all kind of speak to this in a lot of respects. One thing I found for me with all of this too is that writing is your opportunity to create a world, right? To create a universe. And I found in a lot of respects that it was my opportunity to look at what exists and write what I hope it turns into. It started very personal, you know, with me coming to terms with not even coming to terms, but reconciling my sexuality and my spirituality. Okay. And so great tangent, you know, for me, even thinking about the idea of motivation. And I've been praised for this a lot. So I'm going to make sure I put this out there just in case someone else needs to hear it. I've always been praised for the fact that a lot of people are like, Eddie, we don't see the separation between your spirituality and your art. And it goes to what Ken talked about with purpose, what you all talked about, you know, there's this number of beings, a whole world and universe in you that just needs out, you know, and on some level it is that need for self-expression. So, you know, great responses, y'all, great responses. Number 4, what advice, some of these are a little kind of repetitive, what advice do you have for upcoming writers? Who wants to go first? Or anybody want to take it? Anybody? You guys gotta be laughing now.
I go. I was gonna say, just right. The main thing that I keep hearing when I think about advice that it's sort of redundant. They say you gotta read a lot, write a lot. If you're a writer, just write. Even like I said, even if you are doubting yourself, just put some words down on paper. Like I said, I think SENYAH said, you're writing for yourself at first. Don't worry about how good it is. Don't worry about if people are going to like it. If it's something that interests you, if it's a book that you want out there, then you're the one that needs to write it. I mean, so many times people say, well, somebody needs to write a book about that. If that's the book you want to see, then that's the book that you need to write. Chances are, if you have an interest in this, there are probably 1,000 other people, if not 1,000,000 other people that also have that same interest. So just sit down and start writing. If that is your purpose, you know, just write, join writers groups, try to build a community. And as I mentioned earlier, no devil in hell and no man on earth can prevent God's plan if that is his plan for you. So that is my advice to upcoming writers.
Yes.
Well done, Professor Compton.
Oh my
Spoken like a doctor. No. Seriously, no, I love it. And I love that you even spoke to, it's advice that I've given some of you. And it's like advice that I've had to hear myself, that you just really need to put some on the paper. Right. We worry so much about it being perfect when we first put it on the page. And I learned a long time ago that there really is, if you all want to go to the Matrix and bend a spoon, there is no such thing as writer's block. Writer's block is the idea that we want it on the paper perfectly.
Right.
Put something on the paper, Adding to what Ken said, I would definitely say, I've heard that advice a lot, that writers need to read. And I will say that to some degree that's true, because on some level it helps to have something to model. I've since expanded my definition or belief or whatever you want to call it, to say that you more so need to expose yourself to story. Okay, I've said it several times in my own bios and things, in my own intros. I read comic books, I read the stories from the Bible, I read the Childcraft Encyclopedia that had mythology, that had folklore, that had the stories from religion. I watch cartoons, I watch movies, I get story out of it. I hear story in song, I hear story in poetry. Those things inspire me to write. I've watched episodes back when Scandal was on, and I wasn't the biggest fan, but I'll be watching something that Shonda Rhimes doing that would make me say, you know what, Pierce, you're supposed to be writing. Where's your pen? I would turn that show off, and I would go do what I had to do, But it does come back to what you said, Ken, and I've learned even recently, prayed on this. God gave this to me. That's why this king is perfect. Christ is king. But on several occasions, it was, Eddie, stop BSing. Sit down and write. And when I would finally do it, in a lot of instances, it would just flow out. But we more so here to talk to you guys. Darnell, SENYAH, did you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, and this is a very common question, because you see someone who's doing what you want to do. If you want to ask, how can I be down, basically. And I think that one of the things that I like to say is to forge your own path. Not to mix metaphors, but I'm going to the visual arts world. You don't want to paint your portrait with someone else's brush or pigments, right? You need to, yes, write. Don't worry so much about the perfection or even the end result, right? So there's that. I definitely am a believer that writers need to be readers. But not just readers and consumers of stories in across all genres. I believe that as well, but also live, get experiences, and observe, watch people and human behavior and nature. So I think all those things are critical for up and coming writers. I don't know. I feel like I take issue with the term up and coming. Writers who have not reached their goals yet. I mean, they're writers. It's writers. But anyway, I want to say forge your own path, just because, and don't get me wrong, I've been a mentor for several years to young people. I don't knock mentorship, but I know that often when you are at a point where you are starting out in said endeavor and you want to get to a higher level, you can kind of run yourself crazy thinking about what are the steps, what are other people who were there doing, how did they do it? And I mean, some people can like spend all their time learning other people's stories and other people's paths, and while you're doing that, you're not forging your own. And so just trust, and it's just a universal truth. As you walk that path, the avenues, the ways, the forks in the road that you need to take you where you need to be will come. They say when a student is ready, the teacher will come, right? So just trust that if you are doing the work to be the best writer you think you can be, you are writing, you are learning, you are experiencing, you are honing your craft and how you tell a story. The opportunities for you to get better and further and to reach your goal will naturally gravitate toward you while you're on that course.
I love that.
You.
I know I keep doing it again, but no, I said I'm gonna get Darnell real quick. But thank you for that, saying, because you also made me think about something I learned in recent years, and I think I've said it to several of you on a couple of occasions, that we can get so bogged down with the research and let me read this book on how to write, and let me watch this podcast on how to write, and let me read this book. And what I found in a lot of instances, that is a very subtle subconscious procrastination.
Yes.
Can be.
Thank you.
It can be.
At some point, you gotta step out on what you learn. You gotta step out on faith, and much like you said, saying you don't want to be, as much as I love the comparisons I've gotten to Elin Harris, I mean, stuff in print, right, from like actual reviews and stuff, and comparisons to James Earl Hardy, James Baldwin, but you don't want to be them. No, we don't want, they would even say, we don't need another Elin, we don't need another James Earl, we need your voice. And so I love that you speak to the idea that you gotta forge your own path, and just even a warning for some people that may not know or expect this, that you will look at those mentors sometimes, and they're great, and they may be the most well-meaning people, not even just the mentors that are writers, but other people. Sometimes you will have to stand flat foot on who you are, what you do, and say to that mentor who you respect, I love you, however, this is my path, that one is yours, and if we're lucky, they're gonna intersect again. So man, nuggets of wisdom. And I'm honestly trying to get all these in too, because I'm making sure that this goes to a number of writing students, institutions and things of that nature too. So the wisdom, thank you guys. Darnell, I know you got some. What you got?
Yeah, I think of everything to say, and then when it comes to my turn, everything leaves me pretty much the way it writes. What happens when I write? But we got, think about Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, oh goodness gracious, Robinson Crusoe. Those people who had adventures going across several books, and not many of them have been black. Main characters have been black. So that feeds into my first piece of advice is, if there's a book out there that you haven't seen, that you want to see, then you need to write it. This author by the name of Kwame Mabalia, who did not see a black character in these Harry Potter-like stories, invented one himself, and he got it going on, and he did it, and he took it to the publishers, and he got under somebody else's wing, and he published this book, Tristan Strong. Not endorsing anybody else's book on this format, but
brother, you can show us that book one more time, please. Because I love it. I've seen it and I read it. That is a great book. We talk about from a black perspective today. That is our history. That is our quote unquote folklore. That is our quote unquote mythology. Those are our heroes. Before you go to looking for that man in that cape in red, blue, and yellow, come here first.
Now this guy right here, Rick Riordan, he is the one. He is the one who actually did the Percy Jackson books, and he got with Kwame and said, "Boom, let me just give you a format. Well, not let me give you a format, but you can speak this better than I can speak it. So why don't you speak it, and then I'll give you my platform." So that's cool. But that's number one. If there is not a story that you haven't seen that you need to see, it's because you need to write it. That's number one. Number two, back to this book or any other book. You cannot compare your rough draft with something that has been published, because this book, all we see is this. We have not seen the 50, 60, 70, sometimes 80 drafts of this one thing. What we see is the tip of the iceberg. We don't see that big ass hunk of ice beneath the ocean that brought forth that little bitty tip of the iceberg. So don't fret over your book and your words not sounding like Baldwin, because Baldwin didn't sound like Baldwin until he went through a bunch of edits. The work we're talking about writing. Yes, the work is in the writing, but the bigger work is in the rewriting and the edit and the shaping. The Statue of David did not come out that way. It was a big ass block of rock first, and he had to chisel here and chisel there and then smooth it out here before we finally get the masterpiece that we know today. And that's the same thing with your book. It's a way for you to get frustrated because your words does not come out the way that you want them to, but it's going to come in a rewrite. You need something to work with. A master, when he does a sculpture, he needs clay to be there. So you need the words to be there so that you can shape those words. So you need to write something down and then shape it up to be what you want it to be in your edits, in your rewriting. And then the second one ain't gonna be right. And the third one might not be right. Anybody who said that they wrote their book and it was like this when it first came on the page is a damn lie. Because that book has gone through so many edits and you have to get something down in order to shape it into the thing that you want it to be. So to echo what everybody else has said, the way to be a writer, and this is to myself included, the way to be a writer is to write. When you get it down on the page, you then work with it, and then the work begins to get it into the shape that you want it to be in so that other people can read it.
Got the mic that time. I got it that time, y'all. But no, I wish you could have seen us in the background, Darnell. You might have been able to, because SENYAH was clapping, I was going up, and it just, yes. Man, just to piggyback a couple of things, and while I'm doing that, you guys that are watching, you still have the option to put those comments in. Even when you see the replay, I can still see the comments later. So if there's some things you want to get answered, if you want to get in contact with any of the authors, I can definitely help you do that. But I love you spoke to a couple of things that I found to be true and great advice. That the hardest part is putting something on the page. And then from there, baby, it's honestly, it's cake, because now you're just going in, taking out, adding in, you get your good editors, you get your good sister SENYAH that says, hey, you missed that comma, that hyphen, let's change this wording. Crystal, who's not present, she's edited some of our work before. She looked at, not even the commas and the periods, but the structure of the story overall and said, Eddie, this part right here has a better pace that will hook the people in the beginning. Let's put this in the front instead of putting it in the back where you have it at. And I mean, yeah, that part, I can admit, I find the editing tedious when it's, me proofreading. And even when it's me, I always have somebody else edit, even though I do a lot of stuff in-house, I always have somebody else, look at it. But the other thing I wanted to speak to, and it kind of echoes a little bit of what SENYAH was talking about too, that the idea that once you start down that process, a lot of the things that you think you need will come. And that's why I love that example that you gave with Tristan Strong, because, a lot of us are out there, thinking like, where would I get this published? My first thing is always stop thinking about that, like book first, right? Even if you don't finish the editing per se, is the story finished from beginning to end? That's the finished draft, right? But you never know the outlet, that may come along and say, hey, we can put you right on in here in that case. Or even in the case of what we've been doing together, we've been talking about writing, some of us for years. Ken and I have been talking about writing without aging ourselves 20 years or so. And then we come back and now it's like, Ken, I got a book, I need your writing. You never know. Last thing I'm gonna put on that is save it all. Save it all. I was talking to a young man here in Dallas some years back, and we were talking about him wanting to write, and he told me one day that he had written 20 pages like this. Now, please understand, this is not what turns into the manuscript, right? This is not what gets into the book. There's a whole lot of shaping and everything. But he wrote 20 pages front and back, not 1 page, 2 page. 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, all the way to 20. He said he turned around, he looked at it, and he threw it away. And I could have, and I felt that same. My second book, I will show it to you. My second book, I got 100 pages in. I said, this is complete garbage. And me and God always give the testimonies. He came back to me and said, you need to read that again, son. And I read it and I looked at it and I said, oh, this is actually good. And that's when he told me every word that you put on that paper comes from me. It's good. Okay, of course, we still had to edit and all of that. And oh, I'm sorry, that was the other piece because Crystal made me think about it, talking about Toni Morrison. You're in great company, all of us, anybody that writes. Once it's printed and all that, you're in great company because just like Toni Morrison and several of her contemporaries, and I heard her say it, she wrote it. I heard Shonda Rhimes say the same thing. They have written stuff that has made boatloads of money, right? They have made all kinds of awards. And they said that every time they get up to read that piece that they wrote 30 years ago, that's already a proven work, they still want to take a red pen to it. And I'm just saying that to say, you always find something you want to change. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to change it. So get out of that perfection. Get out of that perfection. Get out of that perfection. You want it good. You want it good. You want the message concise. You know, you want people to be able to understand it. But if you keep going back, because that's another place we get trapped in. We get trapped in the revisions.
Yeah.
And at some point you just gotta say, hey, I gotta trust. You know, thank you, Yvonne, for being here. You're one of the main people I do this with. Every time I do a book, there are 6 or so people. Katrina's one, Crystal's another. I think I did this with Ken. Every time I write something, long before it even is a finished manuscript, I send it to 6 different friends. And I'm not looking for them to edit. I'm more so looking at the common things that they say that they get, don't understand, they like, or whatever. And somewhere in there, that gives me a sense of what may need to change. If 3 people out of 3 say they all don't get something, I'm going back to check it out. If 1 out of 3 is like, but the other 2 get it, I'm less inclined to change it. So, you know, some of it is what you've been talking about, Darnell, and Ken, you've done this thing, you talked about something like this. It's about being in a collective. That's another reason I wanted this project. That's another reason I want to work with you all. Sometimes we need that quote unquote workshopping experience. We need someone else to just look at it, just read it. You know, we always looking for some validation, which is something we got to be mindful of too. But just even that other person that's not even necessarily a writer, but are they an avid reader, like Yvonne? Great example. They know enough to know what, you know, the structure of a story is, you know, kind of thing. And so sometimes you got to stop saying, yeah, you and I are a lot like this. We work in isolation. A lot of writers are, a lot of artists are. We write in isolation. And when we do that and never share it, we never get any inclination that this might be something of value that we can put out there if we don't find it in and of ourselves, you know. But yeah, that's my $19.14.
There you go.
Let me just share this really quick.
We got time, brother. Go ahead.
You don't have to put it. But Stephen King talks about this. He had written. He had an idea. Boom, that's exactly it. He had written like 12 pages front and back of this story that he looked at it. He didn't feel like he was getting in touch with the character. He didn't like it. He didn't know where it was going. He crumpled it up. He threw it in the garbage. His wife came, got the papers out of the garbage, smoothed them out, read them, and told him, complete this story. And he was like, well, I don't know where it's going. I don't know how it's going. She says, well, I will help you with some of the things that you're having problems with. And she was, Tabitha King, who is a good writer herself, came with the idea, not with the ideas, but with some guidance. And the book that Stephen King had almost thrown out was, I heard Ken say it was Carrie. And so you never know. I guess maybe something that you can do is, yes, I'm so much with SENYAH in that forge your own path, rely on yourself. Yes, absolutely. You have to listen to your voice. Eddie said sometimes you have to go through, you have to diverge paths with the mentor that you love so much. But get you somebody that you can talk to. And also read authors that have done it already, because all this writing that we've done, our stories are unique, but the process is not. You have to look at some of the things that other people have done, and also look at those readers that you like and break it down. What is it that they are doing on the page that speaks to you, and see if you can emulate that. Babies don't know how to talk until they hear other people talking and try to imitate what it is that they hear. So find your author that you like, break it down, see what it is that they are doing on the page, and then try to correlate it with things in your own right.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Yeah, because I think about honestly too that for all of that modeling, for all of that, stepping out on your own, it helps to have that feedback. For one thing, and just even I honestly kind of forgot where I was going with it because you gave me so many good points. If it's important, my belief is the Holy Spirit will bring it back. So if nothing else, it'll turn into a post that y'all see on Monday when my mind is more fresh. But no, great conversation, and going to invite anybody that's there again to drop any questions. But number 5, what have you found to be the most rewarding as a published author? The most rewarding aspect of the experience?
For me, it's just being a part of the business of writing. There's nothing like getting that first publication, and like it was mentioned earlier, it has changed quite a bit. There's not as many opportunities as there were back in the day. A lot of changes have come about. But for me, once again, it's just this is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm going to do. So I love being a part of this anthology. I love the exposure. I love being in the company of other writers. I can say that I have been published online and I have been published in print, and it can be a life-changing moment, validation. I just love the business of writing and being a part of this group. So it's affirmation. Love it. So that's me.
Awesome. Anybody else?
What has been the most important part of publication? I am a nerd. I like seeing books. I like seeing pages in books. I like the smell of new books. I like the scent of old books. And I just like seeing words in print with justified edges and all that stuff. And the rewarding thing for me is just seeing my name among the stories that are being told in this world, and seeing it in a print form. Yes, of course, seeing it online as well, but seeing it in a book, it just speaks to the nerd in me. So that itself has been a rewarding thing.
Awesome. SENYAH, did you want to hit it?
Yeah, I think for me it's twofold. I think the first part is legacy. When your work is published, it has more of an opportunity to live beyond you. I mean, I recognize the griot and the oral tradition, which is not so popular nowadays, because clearly print is not the only way that stories and concepts can convey from generation to generation, but you've got a good chance when it's down on paper. I remember at 11, 12 years old reading Shakespeare, reading Alex Haley, and thinking they have in their lives, they had no idea that a SENYAH would exist to be reading and digging their work like I am. They couldn't fathom, and like how many people are like me that are digging this work where the originator is so long gone. It's like the light of a star. So for me, legacy is the first part that's most gratifying, the feeling that it is more solid than perhaps it had been before. And then I think the second thing is that I feel like I have a spokesperson. So with every book that I write and that is published, those are my words, my thoughts, my feelings, my stories. These are things that I wanted to express. And now I don't have to say it. I could just, here's a book. You want to know what I think? You want to know who I am? You want to know if I have talent or if I suck? You want to know how my mind works? There you go. You know, and so because sometimes it's exhausting to continuously explain yourself, express yourself. You know, when your work is published, you have gotten that moment in time. It's like a photograph. It's a snapshot of where your mentality and your mind was then, and just forevermore, you could just get it out. You know, so I think those two things for me, legacy and the spokesperson aspect, if you will, are the two things that move me greatest in being published.
Awesome. And actually piggybacking off of all three of you, for anybody that doesn't know, and you see this in the bios, everyone in the book has a bio page right before their piece. And this was not the first time that Ken and Darnell were published. They were both published in magazines before. And but one of the things I think about when it comes to all of that is it's kind of way I think I was talking to some of you or someone in the live. I've done so much now lately that where's my teeth? 1 second. Look at that I'm a writer, y'all. Look at my writing mug.
There you go. I think we all got one of those.
But the idea that, like everything else in life, you build, right? You learn how to walk by continuing to walk. Your muscles get bigger the more you exercise them. And even this idea of being published, which a lot of us, it's definitely something to be celebrated. It's not the end all be all necessarily, but you get there by constantly building and building and building and building. And in this case, we've all written something. My first publishing credit, which gave me some everything, was also in a magazine for poetry. I did poetry. I don't really do poetry very often. And then the very second one was an entry in an encyclopedia. So still not fiction, what I ultimately did. But each of those publishing credits, each of those attempts at writing, each of those stories built me up to the place where I had not only the confidence, but I also had more of a following each time, that when I put out something, they're like, "Eddie wrote a book. Let's go get it. Let's go find it. Let me hear about it. Let me pay attention to when he posts about it. Let me share it, kind of thing." And so I guess my thing is, it's definitely a stepping stone. It's definitely a doorway being open. And keep in mind, in this day and age, as we said on several occasions, publishing is not what it used to be. It's not going to Simon & Schuster and hoping that they, do something. And even before you get to them, that I think back on it, one of the more interesting biographies that I got a piece of was like Benjamin Franklin or somebody. And it was really what we're doing. We wrote something and we got together and said, what publishing actually is, for anybody that still doesn't know, is that a book is done, right? That's not publishing. The book is done. It's the act of circulating it. It's because we've all written in these. The book is done, but now it's over there in that corner. It's not published. It's published when it goes out, when people know that it's out there, when they know that there's a vehicle by which I can find it, read it, what have you. So, we keep coming back to this definition of a writer and what a writer is and everything. Whoever is listening to this, did you write on a napkin? Did you put it in your notebook? Did you put it in your notes in your phone? Is it somewhere in your computer? Did you write it on the wall? Okay, you're a writer. Now, if you're talking about published and professional and all that, now you're talking about a different story, but you're more than halfway there. I say it all the time to people that write before you even get to publish. You've done something that millions, a literal millions of people have not done. They have not sat down and put their thoughts on paper. You've already set yourself apart from that many more people. Why not just go ahead and go the next step further? You know, whether it's Eddie Pierce and Rainbow Room Publishing, whether it's Palindrome Global, whether it's Dreamwriter Inc., whether you start something yourself. One of my favorite stories, one of the best books that's out there as far as sales, and it's actually a story that I like a whole lot. You guys may be familiar, and I'm talking to you guys and the listeners. The Shack. It's a story of this man that goes to a cabin. Won't go into the whole story, but he gets an invitation from God to go to a cabin in the woods that takes him back to a very dark period in his life. And he meets what we in the Judeo-Christian tradition refer to as the three sides of God: God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. And I'm not going to tell you, but they put a good old twist on that God the Father, and I love it. But that man broke. One year said that I'm going to write a story, and that's my Christmas gift to my children, which then turned into him writing it and going to Kinko's. He went to Kinko's and he copied it. He had it bound, and then he gave away 13 copies for Christmas. So it had already blown up from just giving it to his children. Now he gave it to his family and his friends. They read it, they passed it around, and they all came back. There's that piece of that affirmation sometimes you need from some other people. They came back and said, you got to do something with this. 13 practically handmade books from Kinko's turned into one of the best-selling books worldwide, and a movie that I believe hit some box office records, you know. So I'm just speaking to what we even talked about before we got on here. We're not going to go into all of what we were talking about, but use what you got.
Yeah.
Use what you got. Somebody wants it. Somebody needs it. Use what you got. Use what you got. We got about 8 minutes, and I think this is a good question to end on. What has been your toughest lesson or biggest learning moment as a writer?
Well, we've already touched on this, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. I'm one of the people that
repeating.
Suffers from wanting it to be perfect. You know, Eddie, I have to thank you again for being so patient with me, sending you so many rewrites. This, let me change that. And even right now, as I sit here, there are things, even in doing the reading, that I still plan to change when we do a second printing. You know, the toughest lesson that I've learned is you have to get to a point, like I said, we've already mentioned it, but you just have to get to a point where you let it go. Trust what you have written. You know, I was happy to hear you say that even some of the greats, they still want to take, you know, a red pen and kind of mark through what they've done. But you know, just have to get to a point where you trust yourself, let it fly out into the world, see what it does, see how well it's received. But my toughest lesson is learning that it can't be perfect. And I am one of those people. I do go into the Barnes and Nobles, I look at the books, and I see, oh man, I can't do it quite like them. But it's like DONELL mentioned, this has gone through so much that they've probably been up at night. They have their own self-doubts. They, you know, spend time wondering, well, are they going to like this? The people going to receive this? You know, so, but in the end, and who knows how many times they've rewritten it, and who helped them do it, who gave them this idea, said, take this out, put this in. But my toughest lesson is just learning how to trust myself as a writer and let it go. It'll never be perfect to me. It will never sound right. Years later, there's always something that can be said differently, you know. So that's my toughest lesson.
And just to piggyback off of that, and it's not necessarily probably something that's widely known, but you guys can probably all, I should say, not guys, can probably all speak to this. I have read books from my favorite authors, and there are still typos. There are still typos. These books have been out for years. They made all kinds of money, and there are still typos. Now, it's not littered with typos, You know, it's one speed bump or one pothole in 300 pages, maybe 5. But even then, no perfection, no
Yeah.
perfection. You know, just like us, none of us are perfect. You know, we have quote unquote flaws, and they're the things that make us unique and beautiful. So it's another reason that some typos I don't trip over as much, because I'm like, the child, she just made all this thing on my. Now, granted, some of them are at a place now too where those things are excusable. Those of us that are trying to get in the door, we have to do a lot more due diligence,
Right.
you know, in a lot of respects. But just if anything, I'm hoping that it helps all of us that are listening, all of us that are part of this, know that even the greats have made their mistakes and they rode with them and they riding good in a Rolls Royce. So, anybody else want to hit that question?
One of the toughest lessons that I have learned, we've already said it earlier, but one of the toughest lessons that I have had to learn was that you cannot revise from something that you haven't put down on the page in the first place. And so there have been periods that I have gone for several weeks, even months, of not contributing to this story. And I kick myself for not moving forward. And then as you are kicking yourself, you go into this darker place where you're not writing. So the biggest or the hardest lesson that I have had to learn was that you have to write, even when you don't feel like it, even when the muse is not there. Because I'm a big I fall into this pit. I have to tell myself to not fall into this pit. Lots of times you don't want to write because the muse is not there. Whereas you had this great idea and now you have to go write it down. You know, that's the muse being there. But you have to write even when the great idea is not there. Because lots of times you would find that as you are writing, some stuff will come to you as you are writing. And you are able to build off of that. Whereas if you had not started the writing, the actual physical writing, then the idea would not have come. So one of my biggest lessons is to write, even when you don't feel like it, even when the idea is not there, even when you know, just don't think that you have anything to say. Hell, get a journal and write there. But you have to keep writing. That's the biggest lesson, that and the hardest lesson and the easiest lesson and the most repeatable lesson that I can come up with.
Good point, Darnell. It's honestly, it's one of those things that is so simple it eludes us. Right. That's why I'm honestly reading the questions and I'm looking at them like, oh, this is kind of the same question. But the repetition is necessary. We can all speak to it. We've all had to do it to ourselves. We had to look in the mirror sometimes or whatever. I cuss myself out sometimes. And it goes write the damn book. You know, and honestly, for me, it's a thing of just speaking to that point you made. Remove all of the temptations to procrastinate. Working on my most recent novel, and my parents and my family could speak to this when I was living in Chicago. I would get in the car, go around the corner from the car, sit in my car at a park, and write stuff in my phone. Because if I was in the house, oh, this floor needs to be mopped, and these clothes need to be done, and I need to cook this, and I need to do everything in the world. I think I said this at the presentation where SENYAH and I met. Everything in the world will come to your mind to do other than the writing. But anyway, good segue to SENYAH. Did you have anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, I think that the hardest things for me as a writer, and I had to figure it out at great pain, was to not be overly susceptible to comparison, and then to not take criticism so much to heart. That's why I said you have to forge your own path. That was really a hard lesson learned for me. Comparison is one where, especially if you are a lover of words and that's part of what compels you to write, when you find these artists, these authors who string them together so beautifully, and you just want to be like that. But when your authentic voice comes out, it's not similar. It can put you in a place that's discouraging. But you have to remember that dissimilar is not worse. So don't be overly susceptible to comparison. Appreciate what you can appreciate, and do your best, and realize that there are those who are going to appreciate yours above others, just as you do for the authors that you favor. And then as far as criticism, I mean, I think that every human being should be open to critique. That's how we get better and evolve. But when it's criticism, from the chaff, and just say, okay, is this your opinion, or is this something that is really reflective of my work? And you know, what they say, haters gonna hate. You just kind of gotta let get rid of that at some point, and don't really pay too much attention to it. There are some people who are gonna think you're garbage, and that's okay.
Great point. And then I'm actually piggyback off of it one last time, that when you mentioned the haters, it makes me think to the idea of, those who don't support, And for me, in a sense, I've been blessed with this sense of just forge ahead, forge ahead, forge ahead. But it's not always with the most positive spirit. Now, I can be the one saying, we talked about this. So just prepping you brothers, I'm prepping everybody listening. You can have an event and be the only one there. And you told everybody. And everybody said they're coming. And I'm also honestly speaking to some other friends of mine that I hope, hear this. One thing I had to learn is that as much as you might be mad as hell, bitterly disappointed, you can't go all over the world saying that. That doesn't bring you the support. You got to go somewhere. Maybe like what Darnell even spoke to, maybe you need to go write about that. Go put that in the journal somewhere. But I see a lot of it, unfortunately, especially in this day and age of social media, and how we've gotten a little too accustomed to putting all of our thoughts out there. I myself can be guilty of it at times. Is that you still not only have to go forward, but you have to find ways to elevate that spirit out of that place of just raw, fiery anger, disappointment at who didn't buy and who didn't show up, and because it's always going to happen. But as I was even saying in an interview recently, one of the blessings that I found is that half the time, those people that don't support on the front end, they sometimes circle back. Some people that, man, it's Sunday, I'm gonna go there. Jesus, he wasn't accepted in Nazareth. He wasn't accepted at home. It wasn't until he left home and did something somewhere else. And I've experienced the same thing. And this is no knock to Chicago, because I have a lot of support in Chicago. Y'all know I do. But it wasn't, for some individuals, it wasn't until I got here and got an interview here that they looked up and said, oh, like they didn't know I was doing it all along. But even then, you still have to move in grace. At that point in time, you still have to move in grace. If this is going from just talking about, we talked about there are levels to this. It's not just being a writer, but it's also this idea of being a professional writer, being a published writer. You have to be professional at all times. You have to be professional at all times. Yeah, that's the end of our questions. We're a little over time, but hey, it's my show. Who's gonna tell us to shut up? So I want you all, take a moment. I'll talk a little bit, but I want you all to just think of any last thing that you want to say to all the people. I appreciate all of the thanks, and I'm asking you guys to hang on in the studio, and we're gonna have a private celebratory moment of our own. Before we sign off, and I'll actually even click you out like lights after each one. SENYAH, ladies first. Anything you want to leave the people with And trust me, I'm telling about Jayla if you don't. So go ahead.
Okay, well, since I had the opportunity, thank you for joining us. I hope you got something out of this for your spirit, whether it's to learn, you know, what it is to be an author, or just to hear some story time. Some people just like to be read to, or to just see some folks just, you know, chop it up, whatever. I hope you got something out of it. And as Eddie loves to say frequently, and I love him for it, I am the author of a children's book series called Jayla's Jaunts. It's about a little girl and her aunt, and they are having adventures across the country. They're going state to state, and I will just do a shameless plug since I have the platform. So I do have the first 4 books in the series complete, and I'm having a book launching in May for the 4th book, Arkansas. So we do have Alabama, and we're going in alphabetical order, and we have Alaska, and we have Arizona, and sneak peek, we do have Arkansas. And
Yeah, Arkansas!
like Eddie said, California is done, so that's the next one out. And you forgot Colorado, Eddie.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, I'm learning my states.
And then Delaware. So that is a labor of love close to my heart. So I appreciate anyone who has young people in your life. I appreciate them exposing them to Jayla because it's educational and fun. So I like to couple those two. And I did want to just say thank you, Eddie. I did not thank you before. I'm so sorry, my manners. I was just kind of getting to it with the story reading, but thank you so much for this opportunity. And for the viewers who don't know, this was twofold for me. Not only was I an author in the anthology, but my artwork was also featured as the cover. I am also a visual artist. And that series that the cover art is a part of is close to my heart. It's called Witness. And I don't know, I've just had some obsession with eyes for quite some time now that I look back at my stuff. And Witness is, it's a series where in the iris of all of the eyes, we're depicting some aspect of the Black experience. And so I was featured on that cover and I really appreciate it. And I'm actually in my studio now, so I have like some beginnings of some other works in that series. And so I just want to thank you for lifting me up in that way and allowing that platform. I really appreciate it and appreciated it. And that this has been fun. I've enjoyed myself. So thank you for having me.
SENYAH girl, you already know. We know. The love is there, baby. Sister. It's always good to express. I get it. But I know. I know. And I'm glad you did remind me because I forgot to show them. Yes, abolition, right?
Abolition.
Why I keep saying abolition? Abolition, like abolitionists. Yes. Get into that. I keep telling y'all, when y'all look at this, you need to examine that eye. If you don't catch anything else, catch that 1865. Our freedom. All right. But yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention that SENYAH and I already have this agreement. You know, we still got to put some stuff on paper and we got to do the business because you don't just go get somebody art. You pay. We are brother and sister, but we are business partners. Okay. Yes, so please let them. I'm letting you know that every book in the series will feature one of the pieces from Witness. We've already picked which ones go into the 2nd and 3rd book. So it's honestly, it's a beautiful way to help even keep telling this story and show this progression of history and the diversity of perspective. And we've already talked about it. I've spoken in faith. The universe heard us. There will be an art showing of all of the pieces. And y'all gonna come out and y'all gonna buy. But for now, we're going to thank SENYAH, and I'm going to ask you to stick around and put you in the virtual waiting room. See you soon. Brother DONELL, we're just going to go down the line here. Oh, did I mute you?
There we
go.
Is there anything else I want to say? Well, yes, of course, thank you. Thank yous are in order. So thank you so much for again, including me in this. Just continue to send your vibes to me in spirit, in prayer, in words. I love that whenever I put a post on social media that has absolutely nothing to do with walking to Jupiter, I have friends like Eddie who would drop into the comments section about something that I said about Patti LaBelle's background singer. And then Eddie would drop in to the comment section and said, "You better write that bitch." And I fucking love that. I do, because it just, and Crystal, who was a writing coach of mine, which is actually how I got really big into Eddie too. But Crystal, who was a writing coach of mine, I was talking about some planning that I was doing for the book, and she said, "You know what? All of that sounds like procrastination to me. You need to get into it." And she was so on the money with that. So thanks for that. Thanks to Joe Okonkwo, who is a published writer. He wrote a book called Jazz Moon. That's another one in that echelon that I had named with Eddie and with James Earl and James.
You can name me. I'm coming.
Yeah. But Joe Okonkwo is another one who is in the daily thing of writing and getting his story out, and he calls me up and says, "You know what? How's it going?" And so thank you for that. Thank you for checking in on me, and send any good vibes that you can to me when it comes to birthing this baby. Because I don't know nothing about birthing no babies, but I'm gonna birth the hell out of this one. I'm telling you. So thanks for that.
But y'all heard it right here, because I'm gonna recruit. So every time y'all see this man on social media, when you see him on the streets, ask him what he is doing on this street, because we are waiting for this book. We're trying to get to Jupiter. It's a long walk. We got to start now. So get to writing that book. I already told you. And I even hit up Brother James Earl Hardy. I told him, I said, we need to be like blinders. I need to hit him over here. You need to hit him over there. He gonna finish this book. It's coming. It's coming. Thank you, Darnell. And like I said, please hang out with us in the virtual waiting room so that we can just have our little private, turn up situation.
Yes.
Brother Compton, look, we ain't gonna say we saved the best for last. I keep y'all.
Lord have mercy. Hey, I have so much to say. I really do. Again, I have to say thank you to everybody that's joined us today, to the other authors, to you in particular. A lot of people may not know this, but I believe it was about maybe 8 years ago. I came into work. Back then, I was traveling quite a lot for my job. And I found out the day that I came into work that I had to take a car trip to Kentucky. I wasn't expecting that. So I got in the car, I rented a car, did all these things last minute, packed. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this. Why, I wasn't expecting to be on the road today. I was driving to Kentucky. It started raining really badly. I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to get through this rain. I hate driving in the rain. And then all of a sudden, for some reason you came to mind. I was thinking about you and everything that we had talked about, writing and publishing. And then all of a sudden, as it stopped raining, there was this rainbow. I saw it wasn't just a piece of the rainbow, it was the entire arc of it. And I'm sharing the story to say that this is all a part of God's plan. I think these things, me being a part of this anthology, you renewing my interest in my own writing and myself as an author, it's all a part of God's plan. This is the beginning of that promise, that rainbow promise Again, I say thank you. It was a very nice surprise. You recruiting my very best friend, Rob Jones, to be a part of this. He is an inspiration to me. You are an inspiration to me. Everybody that's joined us, the fact that we have people who want to see more of some of my writing. You know, I have other stories, but Graffiti Park has been one of the main things that I've worked on over the years. So thank you very much. I hope that everybody has gotten something out of this. It's given me a lot, being in the company of other writers, other authors. You know, I just can't thank you enough. So, Crystal, yes, purpose to everything. Yes, it is indeed. And I do miss you today. We've got some work to do ourselves. You know, I may, you may end up being my writing coach. You know, any words of encouragement, I'm always down to receive those. So this has been a very fun event. You know, I'm overwhelmed. I got a lot of work to do, a lot ahead of me. I don't want to disappoint y'all, you know, but there's more to come. And thank you. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Brother, I hear you. I hear you. And once again, I thank you for being a part of this. And even, you know, you reflected on that story with the rainbow. And I vaguely remember where I was at that point in time. And I know that when that story came, it inspired me. It inspired me. And it helped me to keep going. And so iron sharpens iron, as the Bible says. Yvonne asked, does this count as church? God is here. So it's church. It's church. It's
Amen.
Church. So, brother, I'm going to ask you once again as well to just hang on with us for a second, because I definitely want to talk to you guys on the side. I'm going to pop you into that waiting room, and I'm going to give people the good old benediction.
There you go. There you go. Thanks, everybody.
Right. See you in a minute. All right, folks. Woo! I am not going to belabor the point, but I will be transparent. Your boy is tired. I am so tired. But this gave me all the energy that I needed. And I knew just coming into it that I would just be ready to run on a little bit longer. And so I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Crystal, for that. Dream Writer Inc. Come on now. The ish. We waiting for you too. And I'm glad that you are even here so that I can remind people once again that this is not the only time that you're going to hear from this collective. This is not the only combination in which you will hear from us. There actually are already a number of requests for us to do virtual events and events live. So anybody that is thinking about, you know, that, please reach out. Like I said, if you hit up any of those comments, any of those places where you see Rainbow Room Publishing, where you see Eddie S. Pierce, you got me. And we can talk about that. What I have scrolling across the bottom now is the Linktree link. So this is basically, if you get there, you got me. You found all things Rainbow Room Publishing. You found all things Eddie S. Pierce. That is your primary way to get to the bookstore, to get to the services for anyone that is seeking to be published. I definitely want to put it out there because I've already seen this in my inbox. There are a few of you that have already made submissions. Know that I'm getting to you. Tomorrow is correspondence day. So I'm going to be trying to catch up to any number of you at that point. Last thing that I'm going to leave you with is please, please, please also consider joining us next Saturday, this coming Saturday, I should say, April the 24th. At 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for Save Some for the Poets. So we giving you a whole variety here, all right? You're getting the novelists, the longer writers here, and then we are going to give the poets their due next Saturday, this coming Saturday evening, it will also be streamed virtually via StreamYard. So it will get you, if you're on Facebook, it will get you, if you're on YouTube, it will get to you if you're on Twitter. That's going to be a great event. You're going to see a lot of promos about it this week because I'm so excited. The lineup is done. So there will ideally be each day a promo for each individual performer. And you're going to see how good they are and why you need to be there. And not only that, why you need to tip these poets and these musicians, because we have poets, spoken word artists, and we have some musical acts. It's going to be a great event featuring Passion the Lioness, also known as Danielle Hall, aka Passion the Lioness, but the author of Danielle Unfolded. It's another great work. You get to that Linktree link. You can also see on my website how to get to hers, how to buy the book directly from her, but you'll also see the review that I did for this amazing collection of poetry. And then you get to hear her perform live next week. So that's what we're bringing you here at Rainbow Room Publishing. Thank you guys so much for being here, for being attentive, for showing your love wherever you see these authors, including our two sisters that had to be absent today, Miss Katrina, the Hurricane Harvey. Find that podcast, the number 7, Figure Girls podcast. You're going to love it. She's actually going to do an interview of all of us very soon as we can get our schedules together. And then you definitely want to look for Crystal RENÉE, who's also part of this work, who is also the founder, operator, and the publisher with Dreamwriter Inc. And you're going to be seeing great things from her as well. So all hearts and minds clear, like I learned at the greatest church on the west side of Chicago, the High Mountain Missionary Baptist Church, 919 North Laverne. Also, Dr. Jesse D. Jordan Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois, 60649. I think I got the zip right. All hearts and minds being clear, we're going to get up out of here, and I'm just going to leave you with love, peace, and blessings.